Let's say you're making a flyer, a brochure like this one, and you want the background color to extend all the way to the edge of the page. Well, if this were an on-screen document, it's only going to be displayed on screen, then this is fine. Just make sure the objects go all the way to the edge of the page. But in order for this to work in print, you have to actually extend it past the edge of the page onto the pasteboard. Here's why. Let's say it reaches just to the edge of the page. When it ends up on a printing press, the paper might move just a tiny amount, but you'd end up with a white sliver down one side. So, to compensate, printers want you to extend the object off the page onto the pasteboard. This is called a bleed. They print the whole thing on a larger sheet of paper, and then they trim it down to where the edge should be. So, I'm going to select this object, this black frame, and I'm going to extend it past the edge of the page simply by dragging this corner handle out a little bit. How far should bleeds go past the edge of the page? Well, when you're making bleeds, it's useful to have guides, and InDesign has bleed guides built right in. You can make bleed guides in the New Document dialog box, but that only works when you first create the file. In this case, we want to add them to this document. So, to get them, we're going to head over to the File menu and choose Document Setup. You'll see the bleed and slug area at the bottom of the Document Setup dialog box. If you don't see it, just twirl this little triangle down. Now, most printers want between about 9 and 18 points for bleed. I'll set it to 10 points. I'm going to make sure that this button on the right side is turned on, this little link icon. That way, if I change it in one place, it'll update all of them. I just press Tab, and InDesign changes them all to 10 points. I want to emphasize that the amount that you should choose, whether it's 10 points or something larger, is up to your printer. Talk to your printer to get exactly how much they want. Now, while I'm here, I'm also going to add a little bit of a slug. I'll make sure this icon's turned off so that I can change each of these independently. I'm going to make this something large, just the top field. I'll make it big, like 36 points. I'll show you what that means in just a moment. Okay, great. I'm going to click OK, and you'll see that I suddenly have guides around the edge of my page. In fact, let's go to the View menu and turn off Match Pasteboard to Theme Color. That way we can see the guides even easier. These red guides are bleed guides, and if I scroll down slightly by holding down the Option spacebar or Alt spacebar keyboard shortcut to get my grabber hand, you can see that there's other objects up here. These blue guides set the slug area. That's a good place to put information that you want printed out, but that you don't want on the final trimmed piece. I don't want these notes on my final piece, but I do want my printer to see them. So, because they are inside the slug area, I can get them to print out. Now, these red guides are going to tell me how far off the edge of the page I want my objects to bleed. So all I need to do is resize this object to snap to that guide. I'll just select it with the black arrow selection tool and drag a corner or side handle until it snaps to the guide. Same thing with this pink box. I'll simply click it and then drag this top side handle up until it snaps against the bleed guide. I'll scroll down, and now I'm going to snap these bottom objects. Click on that one and drag down. Click on this photograph, drag down, and so on. You get the idea. Let's get that pink box down. You want to make sure you get all of those objects. Here's another graphic that I need to stretch out to the edge. And I need to drag this side to the right edge all the way past the edge of the page just to make sure it fits. Even this photo of this guy needs to snap down as well. If I want it to print to the edge, I need to extend it past the edge. So I'll click and drag the edge down there. Okay, I'm going to press Command-Option-0 or Control-Alt-0 on Windows to see the whole spread. I'll click out here on the pasteboard to deselect everything. And now I can see that all my objects are bleeding. Oh, I missed one. This one on the right side. That graphic there needs to also be pulled down. There we go. Now I've got them all. If you want to see the final product, that is, what this page is going to look like after it's trimmed down, remember the preview mode. You can press the W key to go into preview mode, and you can see that all this stuff that was bleeding off is actually cropped out now. Press W again, and you can see the original the way it was, all the way out to the bleed guides. Now, I'm going to be talking about printing and exporting PDFs in a later chapter, but I have to tell you this one thing right now because it pertains to bleeding. If you're going to be bleeding objects off the page, you must turn on a particular setting inside the Print dialog box or the Export dialog box. To show you this, I'm going to open the Print dialog box with Command-P or Control-P on Windows, and I'm going to go directly to the Marks and Bleed setting up here in this list. Now, this is the same in both the print dialog box and the export PDF dialog box. You have to go to Marks and Bleed and then make sure Use Document Bleed Settings is turned on. If you don't turn that on, then InDesign is going to crop them off at the edge of the page. So turn this on in order for those objects to bleed out, again, both in print or PDF. And if I want that slug information to print, I need to turn on the Include Slug Area checkbox too. Ultimately, when you're bleeding objects off the page, you must talk with your printer first to make sure they're set up to print bleeds, and also to find out how large that bleed should be. Otherwise, you may not get the results you expect.